This is the morning. So this one is for to keep me from being depressed. This one is for keeping me to have anxiety. Then you have this one to keep me from having nightmares and hallucinations about my son. And that's my life. He was 19 years old. It was the worst day of my life.
November 15, 2020. She was 17.
11 years old. She was 11 when she passed away.
Sometimes I would just be sitting there just blank, questioning why did this happen?
When you told in the news, I just remember my heart just dropped in chest.
10 years, it just takes your whole life.
There's no easy way to get through it. It's just day by day.
That's one thing that I'll forever live with in my heart.
When you lose someone through suicide, is that they leave with all the answers.
And if y'all wondering how old I am 8 years old. There will be more Cherish love show.
She was fearless. I named her Cherish because I absolutely cherished her. When I had her, I just used to just look at her for hours, sit and look, and amazed, like, this is my baby girl, I remember one time we were at the park and a guy was telling his son to don't be scared to climb the little ladder thing. And Cherish with her little dress and sandals just climbed that thing like that. He said, "You see that girl? Don't you see that girl?" She was very talented. The last person you would think that would do something like that. She was 7 or 8. Her dad got locked up. I used to tell her, like, at least you could talk to him, because he would call. And she's so smart. She's like, but that's not the same as seeing him. She took it extremely bad. We was living in Detroit, Michigan, in an urban area, and I wanted a better community for my daughter. So we moved to a suburb.
If y'all watching this, I am Cherish. And yes, I am 9 years old. I'm not a child. Okay, I am a child, but I'm 9 years old.
One day, I looked at her arm and I said, "Come here, Cherish, what's that?" I said, "You been cutting yourself?" Immediately after that, I called to get her in counseling and therapy. And I told the psychiatrist, she's cutting herself, and the reason is because she missed her dad. I also believe that a little bullying was going on. She would ask me, "Mom, am I weird? Am I childish?" She just started asking me that. One morning, I goes to wake my daughter up. She wasn't in the bed. So I immediately looked to my left and I see my daughter in the closet. And for some reason, my brain saying she's like playing a trick on me, but it wasn't a joke. And that was the end of my life and hers. Like, I died too. How does that happen? How did she come from going to a counselor in an urban community and thriving very well, and then all of a sudden we get to Macomb and my baby take her life? I don't know what she may be going through in school, because like I said, she would hold things back and it would be like a month later I would find out something happened, That actual clinic called me and said, "Due to Cherish, we're changing our whole policy and process of how we do things." So that was a slap in the face. because you just told me you dropped the ball on my daughter. And she was the catalyst to y'all changing.
Well, Bobby finna go get December in the van, and we'll be out there in a little while. I got that picture I'm bringing in the balloons. Okay.
If you can you walk me through that day?
That day was, we left, came back. It's hard to talk about that day. She was happy the day before. Last day seeing her. I'm still hard to say like how she did it. I just say suicide. I didn't say like how she took her life.
He was a dear, sweet child, and I'm not just saying because he was my son. One of the first jobs he had was to be a lifeguard. And he would come home and he would bring me pictures of the kids who would say, "Thank you, Jamal," and they would write Korean pictures. He was important in saving people's lives who were trying to learn something. And then he took his life because of something that maybe wasn't learned to him just yet.
I've been really good at like just feeling when I'm not wanted. So I try to just back up a little bit sometimes, and so I usually find myself alone. There's a lot of people that I know and didn't talk. I want to say sorry to them for doing this to them. I hurt them. We're trying, promise. It's not easy. I used to so much fight. Every day my heart hurts so much. I just so sad. Don't wait.
My son Jamal Clay died by suicide May 27th, 2020 at 5:55 a.m. He was 19 years old. He was 19 years old. He was 19 years old.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Mom. What's up?
We have to be able to talk about how we feel. My son did a great job not doing that. because not wanting me to worry, not presenting himself as a weak person who couldn't handle things, and he isolated himself.
At first, when she first passed, I couldn't look at her picture. Well, say, found her with a belt around her neck, and she hung herself and took pills. She told me everything but that, so that's what I'm still upset with her about, because she never came to me with that. If I would have found her text messages ahead of time, I would have watched her. I wouldn't have left her at home that day. I always say, if you feel like you want to take your life, talk to somebody first. Like, go to somebody, fight it. You don't gotta take your life.
As a parent, I get looked at like I did something wrong or I didn't do something right. From the time she was born to the time up to when I lost her, I go every which way that you could think of to how I could have prevented this. My daughter was under psychiatrist care at that time. You feel ashamed to say my child did this to himself, especially when they're so young, because you know you will be looked at as a parent. She didn't leave a letter. She didn't leave anything. Suicide is shunned upon. We don't do that, reality we do. Most of us think it, a lot. We just are ashamed to say it out loud.
Happy birthday, Cherish. Happy birthday. We say thank you. Thanks for the present.
This is Jamal's room that I've taken not many measures of changing, but incorporating all the things that he did. I can only say it was a very dark tunnel that I and no one else could be a part of but him. It ain't easy at all. And there are many days, many days that I just look up and wonder, am I even gonna make it another minute? Because the grief is just terrible. It is terrible. The hole in your heart, only you feel. Ain't nothing gonna fill it up. Not no time, not no memories. Just it's a hole. And I walk around with a half a heart. I look at the things that he's accomplished and stuff he put in here. I remember a teacher running behind me so fast and I didn't understand why. I thought something happened, like the building was on fire. And she was running to tell me how much of a joy it was for him to be in her classroom. And I never experienced that before. I mean, I really thought I was in trouble when she was coming my way. And just to have somebody say that, I'll never forget it. I kind of look around and see signs of maybe what he was trying to say. I look at this collage and I read it differently than I did before, for better or for worse. Chose words like improve, happiness, turn worrying off, switched to the next level. Then a picture of a father and a son. I guess that was a message, because his father wasn't around. He had a family that rode for him, got him involved with things. He was never without any of his needs and got a lot of his wants, you know? But that doesn't matter when you're in pain, I guess.
Mental health experts are noticing an alarming trend. The rate of suicide among African American men and boys is climbing.
Back now with the crisis in our country, a staggering rise in suicide attempts by Black children.
Among the general public, but I think especially among Black Americans, people think that this is something that Black people don't wrestle with. My colleague and I analyzed the suicide rates from the Cook County Medical Examiner's Archive, and we found that suicides rose among Black women and men in Chicago between 2015 and 2021. When looking at the method people use, Black males in Chicago were the most likely to die by suicide using a gun. Everyone else used different methods. And Illinois has some of the most restrictive gun laws compared to many of the other states.
When you're left here on earth, you never get your questions answered. We can't do this by ourselves. This is going to take a whole community, a whole village to keep saving lives out here in the world. You know, I went and spoke with a group of about 200 African American boys with my fraternity. And one of the questions I asked a group of boys was, what stresses you out? What are some of your fears? A 10-year-old boy stood up and said, death. And when he said that, the room became silent. And after the little boy said it, other boys confirmed it. I guess they just wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. I think that's the number one thing that our children are dealing with, just about, am I valued in this world as a Black child? And that's very sad to hear. Are our babies traumatized just for being Black? Absolutely. It's the messages that they get.
I feel like you get looked down at.
How often would you say you heard the N-word?
It's an everyday thing.
They're told their hair isn't pretty. They're told that their features aren't beautiful.
It's part of my culture, and it's my heritage that's being violated.
As you kept reading, it just added more and more hairstyles that were natural and mostly worn by Black people.
They're supposed to be a symbol of strength. But then we're told we don't need you to be thinkers.
So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
We see that racism in its different forms impact well-being and development.
Show me the ugly child.
There are longitudinal studies that confirm that racial discrimination experienced by Black youth and felt by Black youth has direct implications for their mental health and suicide risk later on. However, racism is deeper than these interpersonal interactions. Racism is felt and seen in the built environment. So do I have access to mental health treatment? Do I have insurance? Are there places where I can go and have the freedom and joy and wonder of being a child? Or am I faced with these very serious structural issues around violence and food insecurity and material hardship and poverty?
Our children are seeing it as the only alternative. And with the pressures and the demands that's put on our children, and then if you think about the part that social media plays on our children, the rates of being bullied, the sense of, I don't belong anywhere, where's my place? That's a lot to deal with as a kid. I would want them to hear that, child, you matter. You are loved. You're a gift. And maybe you don't see how important you are right now, but you will be.
It took me a long time to come up in here. And really still brings me feelings. I didn't park in this garage for a year. And still feel funny about walking here because all I do is look up and wonder how and why. It's the last place I saw my child before I saw him in a coffin. Just the last place. Sitting over here in a body bag. I couldn't even touch him. They wouldn't let me touch him because I was trying to wake him up.
The sun is shining over here on her. I come out here every year, bring out blooms, get a new picture. Purple is her favorite color. So she know that we visit her every time we come. I mean, I just can't never forget my daughter. She's still my daughter if she in heaven. So I still gotta come out here. So that's why we come all the time, me and my girls. Everything hard when losing a kid. But suicide is so painful. I mean, I know gun violence, die in your sleep, but suicide is so different because you're taking your life. You took your life from yourself.
My sister, Kanasha, she was the best sister. She was funny and she loved noodles and tacos. It's not fun no more without her. In my head, I just be like, Kanasha, I miss you. And something respond in my head and say, she missed me too.
I used to tell Cherish a lot that even though it may seem like it's the end of the world when you go through something, it's not. It's always another day. Because I knew it was something possible because when I was young, I suffered the same, ideations. It happens more than we think it happens.
We wanted to feature an organization that was founded based on a mother's love for her son. Rafia Maxie-Cole has founded Soul Survivors of Chicago.
Jamal was the light of my life. On May 27th, 2020, I lost my son by way of suicide. I felt it was imperative to have a support group, particularly for those of the BIPOC communities. Soul Survivors is so many things. It became a mission that brought not only more people to the forefront in understanding and being able to say the word suicide, but it also was a way for me to continue his legacy. One of the first things we do is we collect shoes from persons who have lost someone by way of suicide, and we clean and sanitize those shoes, and we put the name of them in the shoe and gift it to someone who's in distress with the understanding that you're going to walk in the shoe of someone who's no longer here. I wouldn't have known many of these parents if I didn't get a little bit of courage, the ounce that I had to say, I lost my child and I'm out here alone. Is there anybody else going through this? And I wanted to be vocal about that. The main thing with all the people that I've met and what I want them to capture from my experience is truly knowing that we are together and stronger as a team. You know, you can't break a bunch of branches if you hold them all together. You can break one at a time, but not a whole bunch. And I need them, and I want to be a support just as much as I hope they are feeling the same way back. Because it's a very isolated world. I mean, I know when I walk in a room, everybody thinks one thing. That's the girl whose son died and killed herself. I know that's what they, because their face show it. I see it all in their face. And I can't say that they're wrong, because it is true. And the look back is at you. I believe there's lots of people who probably want to look and examine me. And I do too. But all I know I could say, I was a damn good mother. I worked my ass off. I really did. And it wasn't easy, and it was some rough times. But I held my head up as hard as possible I could. You know that question people ask, do you know where your children are? When it's curfew on the radio. You know, I hear that, and I say, yeah, I always know where my child is. You know, he's in a cemetery. His spirit lives with me, but he's in a cemetery. I love you, son. I love you so much. I miss you every single day. Not a minute goes by. Not a minute goes by. You are my pride and joy, baby. I miss my child so much. I hate leaving him here.